Hey guys, Big Chonis here. Thank you for joining me tonight. You guys can find me on Twitter. I am at Big Chonis. These are all my best ideas. I take technical analysis very seriously. I'm a crypto trader, an investor, a mentor, a chart psychologist. Please do your own research. I want to tell you about my mentoring program that I am having through the month of September. It's a great way to learn and develop your skills, no matter what kind of trader you are, beginner or intermediate, and what kind of schedule you may have. It's a great way to learn, and I'm happy to offer it through September. Please DM me at Big Chonis on Twitter or send me an email, bigchonis@gmail.com. And you can also find me on the 1mil and Vamp trading room on the Discord channel, until1mil.com/TA packages. Okay, let's talk some Bitcoin here. So we just closed our daily candle, okay, about 12 minutes ago. And kind of a red indecision spinning top here, clearly. We wicked out on top, we wicked out on bottom. This is not a bullish candle here. We're definitely held a lot of our angles here that we've been following for some time. We can bring up this and we'll go into some more detail here. But what happens now is we are the first time opening below our pretty tight wedge that we have been kind of watching here build over the past week here. And what we've found is that after basically holding the candle close inside on the way up, we basically failed to do that for the first time on our last 4-hour candle that just closed there. And this is kind of significant because what this does symbolize is that we could be basically losing our supports here. Now, whenever I look at this, I like to see what is holding us up currently, and I use my EMAs. We got our, where are we here? Our 55, we have my 12, and we have 26. So currently we are finding support here right on our EMA 12 on our 4-hour chart. Now that is basically held candle close since, looks like right here, the last day of August. So for several days here, we've been able to hold above our candle close. But right now, we're kind of teetering on actually maintaining that support level. And what we're watching on this is to see, wow, well, if this doesn't actually hold, what are our next areas here that we want to keep an eye on? And for that, we have to look for our EMA 26 here, and then after that it could basically be our EMA 55, and then longer term we have our MA 200 here, which basically has been tested as a major resistance. We broke bullish. We actually tested it and held support, which was very encouraging, and that's what's brought us along this way here. So nothing big has happened yet in terms of our volume. We're still very low. We haven't broken major supports yet, other than this just rising wedge we've been following since the last couple days here of August going into September here. Let's take a look a little closer here. Let's look at our hourly chart. And again, we can basically see a couple things here. Now, we had this candle here where we wicked out on, and then we had a second attempt here, a much lower one. Was able to push through. We came back up, okay, and this is basically our second attempt to break bullish again. Wasn't that much of an attempt there, and we broke bearish, found support here. Now here we basically did two wicks attempts here. One actually had a little volume behind it, the other one not so much. But what happened here is we broke bullish, try to test it, and then we actually put in a lower high here. So again, we were seeing a beginning area here. We were showing divergence where we were not able to, even on our wicks trying to break bullish, put in a lower high, and that was significant there. Now we were also looking at other indicators that were beginning to show us some signs here that we're kind of losing a lot of momentum that has brought us this far here. So we can look at our stochastic on our 4-hour. Now, about 4 hours ago when I did a video, we were basically mid-channel here and kind of in the middle area here, and we were looking for either that next push higher or the next push lower. Now, we had already topped off, so I was looking for, okay, are we going to come down to bottom out? And sure enough, we're doing something very similar to the way we actually rose up here, where we kind of had this little pause, and then we kind of went our full distance here. Now we had a little pause, and we basically have confirmed that we're definitely angled pretty bearish now on our 4-hour Stoch, because our leading indicator really took a jump start there as we started this candle here, which is just getting going. Let's take a look at our 4-hour RSI. Now this was definitely something we were watching through the day, because we have these peaks here, right? And we're putting in lower highs, right? We peaked off here at 70, and our next peak was at 69, and then our next peak here was down to 59. So we keep getting in these lower highs there, showing momentum. I mean, this is the RSI, this is relative strength index, and it's showing us that we're losing momentum still. Now we have either broken this parallel channel support or gotten into areas in the low 50s and even the mid 40s where we have been able to find support. So just because we do get down here doesn't mean it's the end of this overall uptrend, but we do see where we expect to bounce. And regardless of that, as we've put in higher highs, okay, and higher lows when we do reset, we got to keep this going here. So we don't want to break this area 44, which was our last low before we went bullish here. So if we do go bearish, we got to keep at least a higher low from this area. If we're unable to do that, then that could signal a longer term protracted correction here. Look at our MACD here on our 4-hour. Now once again, we were watching this area here of resistance here and here on our line here, okay? And once again, we were hitting up against it as we did here and here. So we were expecting to hit resistance here. We just wanted to see if we could get to the next level higher, where we were able to get towards the end of July there. And we weren't. We're actually finding this line here, linear line angled down, as actually pretty strong resistance concurrently, showing both our indicators. We're not able to get above it there, and are both bearishly angled here. Especially, we just had this bear cross here where our blue leading indicator crossed down into our reddish trailing indicator, as well as our histogram has turned bearish. Looking at our 4-hour squeeze momentum indicator here, we're definitely showing that we're coming down the mountain. Okay, now we've come down the mountain before, had a little respite here in the valley, and we're able to climb back up, but we're starting this new process here. Now, a couple things to keep an eye on here. This was our really bearishness we had at the beginning of August. And every time we have broken bearish since, they've been very little moves, very little moves, very little moves, very little moves here. So let's keep that trend going, right? We have big green mountains, we have little valleys. If we can keep this going here, then it's okay to correct a little bit, reset some of our indicators, okay? And then try and keep moving this bullishness forward. But if we start looking for something like this, then this is going to change around very quickly here. So this is beginning, as I said, to come down the mountain. Okay, we're slowly angling down. Now we've seen areas here where we can do actually a double top here, where we don't get all the way to our valley, and we actually climb to a higher peak or a different double peak. Could still be impossible, still be in play. Looking at our on balance volume, this is what's basically concerned me for several days, and I guess you can kind of see it better on this when we get all the indicators here. But we're watching this last movement here, where we're putting in a lower high on our OBV, and we're putting in kind of a, in the price action here, we're still rising up, and we're putting in higher highs in our price action and lower highs in our OBV. And I feel that's very significant. That shows to me that's some bearish divergence there. Now, we occasionally see bearish divergence or bullish divergence on our RSIs and our stochastics and histograms sometimes, but I feel the OBV is actually pretty meaningful there. And that because it basically, for me, is a very good indicator in terms of accumulation distribution, volume, a combination of a few other indicators that really make it a very reasonable understanding about basically, are people holding Bitcoin? Is there any real strength and substance behind at least this past movement here? And a lot of this price action seems like we're actually selling into any strength that seems to come into this area here. Now I'm on the Bitfinex exchange, and after a lot of research, and clearly it's pretty obvious that I'm going to be doing a lot more of my charting on the Bitfinex exchange. It definitely has the highest, cleaner volume, more so than BitMEX and a couple of the other ones there. And I think it actually shows the most accuracy in terms of where I want to do my future charting in terms of certain Fibonacci levels as such. So since I brought it up, let's actually talk about the fibs, and I want to hide my volume if I can see where it is. This is one big flaw of TradingView. When you're in the black screen, you can't see what's going on back there. There we go. Okay, so we're trying to figure out why we stopped where we stopped, and is it actually meaningful. So we're going to do a couple fib extensions here and see what we got here. So this first one here is basically we're extending our entire kind of wave one to the overall full trend. And basically our wave one, which was from our nut bottom recent 58, 66 and change, to our basically top off of our first impulse we had here, over the entire thing, we actually extended to a very clean Fibonacci level of 1.55, like literally to the penny on Bitfinex, and I kind of found that very meaningful when I saw that. Now, along with that, if we look at just our last move here on our rising wedge, okay, so basically we want to kind of get a sense of what of an extension did we kind of end up on this peak here, which was where we actually did top. So what we're kind of looking for is what would have been the extension if this was our wave 3, and if we kind of did a full wave 5, which was shorter than our wave 3 of our 5th overall wave. And that kind of puts us right at a 786, which is a very nice place to end a wave 5 of the entire wave 5 of this entire 5 wave kind of thing here that we've just gone through, this kind of impulse wave here. And this is kind of how I'm seeing it. Two's tricky. Like two's basically here, but appearance. No, it's not tricky. Two's here. Okay, this is my 3. This is my 4, and this is my 5, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. We have a good 3. This spike here. This was our BitMEX out of order for an hour. Okay, let's pump the market up and screw everybody that had shorts in that weren't able to cover, and not shorts, stop losses in that weren't able to cover on Bitfinex. And we corrected, but we held our mean channel movement here. So I don't see this as a breaking of a wave. I see this as basically the consistency of entire wave 3. This is our 4 pullback. And 5, I count 5 here. I definitely, even the 5th wave. We have our 1, 2, there we go. 3, 4, and a nice 5 at the 786. So this is a very clean 5-wave structure, and we're beginning potentially to put in our first, A wave down. But we're still looking for our confirmations here. So what is going to confirm us that we've actually lost our bullish momentum and are actually beginning to trickle down? So the first thing I'm going to be looking for is to see what indicators we actually fail to hold. So the first one here would kind of be our 12. So far, so good, right? And if we break bearish from that, we got my 26, which is at 7168. And then my 55 is at 7,000, let's just call it 7K. And then kind of this major area, major support line, which because we back tested it and broke bullish on it, I see is even more significant, is holding this 6720 area currently. This will obviously change with candles put in, but this MA200 on our 4-hour, I feel is very important. And it's very important as a major support area if we actually do test it. Let's look at our daily again. And these were some tweets I put out earlier. So this was our RSI we were watching. Okay, when we get into the 63, 64 area here, there was major chop. We found resistance. We broke a little bullish quickly, and then we kind of found resistance again there. Now here we broke straight through it, right? And we found support on it and put our last leg there of bullishness in there. And once again, we're retesting it here, and we kind of got to that 64 area. So let's see where we are now. Bring this back and bring this back. And aha, so that never even, so interesting. So with the RSI, there's no shadow left. So even though we saw hours ago we were actually breaking through the 64, by the time the candle closed, this is our daily candle here, we actually closed under and actually found major resistance right at 63. And that actually corresponds with this point right here and these top offs here. So 63, 64, was where we went intraday. 63 is where we closed, and that's major resistance. And now this basically tells us two stories here. If we can break this, okay, we can do something like this. We can clearly, history has shown, where's this one here? Yes. If we can break through this, history has shown we can get up here and test 77 area, also corresponding right now with our center line on our channel here. That's if we can get above the 63 area. But this is where bull runs have come to die. If we can't get back above our 63, we do something like this, where we start going lower and lower and retesting our lower supports. So where are our next support areas? Well, for starters, we want to kind of hold this channel, but from a numerical standpoint, you know, right there, 55. That's our next area where if we're able to break bearish, we want to hold support there if we actually do test it, and that's very important there. So we're in a very interesting zone here that is basically blocked bullish runs or allowed bullish runs to continue, either acting as resistance or support. Very critical, very critical. Okay, this is our stochastic. Now, I put this tweet out earlier talking about how many days we've been up above 80 on our daily stochastic here. And this is very interesting. Have a sip of my beer because the past two bullish moves we had were up there for 11 days, and now we're over 13 days with no change. We're still above 80, and we're definitely 2 days above historically this summer at least, where we've basically topped off and you know, basically unable to hold support. So once again, we've been there extended time. So let's look at it now. And we basically are, ooh, interesting. So notice here, this was 3 hours ago, okay? We were angled bullish on both our indicators here, okay? Fast forward to now, and we actually closed out angled bearish, and we're crossing bearishly right now. So again, we're seeing another sign that maybe we're losing our momentum here. And I do stress that we've been up here with both indicators for, so our daily chart here, right here. And remember, we broke with one, but really both of them were like here. So we're on day 14 now of both indicators being above our 80 line. I kind of find that significant that we've been up here for a while. And that basically means that we can't really be up here for very long, historically speaking, because we actually do come down and begin to correct after that amount of time. MACD, now this is our daily. This looks a little different than our 4 hour. Okay, so both indicators now are in the positive. That's very good. Our histogram is settling. We do have another example where we put in a higher top and then we break bearish. Here's our lower top. So we actually put in a lower top here and are putting in currently a lower candle. Remember, this is a trailing indicator, you know, but it gives us a sense of kind of momentum here. So we are still angled bullishly, okay, but we have yet to do what historically speaking we've seen, which is kind of this crook here we have when we break bullish, at least the last time. This time back in April when we broke bullish, we actually stayed very clean all the way to the very end. you know. But this time when we broke bullish in July, we actually have this kind of dip here, and then we move. So we haven't had a dip yet, and is this going to be a dip move, or is it going to be a continuation straight up move? Okay, still too early to say on this one here. Everything looks like we're still green and moving forward, but again, this is a trailing indicator, so we don't like to lose too much into it, especially on our daily here. And then something about this, I'm still kind of playing with here on our squeeze momentum. Now I was looking for this line to actually hold resistance on the daily chart, and we actually broke bullishly from it. So I'm going to have to adjust to here now, as this is now our resistance. And that's kind of cool because that actually brings our line here, our wedge, a little bit higher up. Now, what I mean by that is we're still apexing on our tight wedge here in the negative. But because we broke a little bit more bullish on this, can actually just angle that slightly right there. We go. As long as we broke a little more bullish on this particular hump, I'm able to move this a little higher, getting us a little closer to potentially ending our apex in the positive. Again, could be more of a bullish sign, but still, are we going to find this resistance here and then retest these troughs? Again, we have supports areas down here, and this is still pretty valid here. Once we top bullish, once we top bearish, we've been kind of in this area, getting tighter, okay? Smaller overall moves as the price action gets a lot tighter as well. So we've done some fibs, we've looked at our EMAs, we've looked at our stochastics, we looked at our RSI, we looked at our MACD, looked at our OBV. Let's look at our TD, shall we? So let's clean up a little things here, get rid of some of our M&As. And let's pull up our Tom DeMark 9 count, because what we're looking at here on our daily is we are several candles still past a completed 9 cycle. It wasn't a perfected 9, but there was a 9 cycle up, and we're bleeding out upward bullishly. Again, we talk about a 1 to 4 candle correction. So 1, 2, 3, we're on our 4th candle. Like, this is the candle where, you know, stuff is supposed to happen. Either we continue on with a new bullish 9 count, or we begin a correction. And because we've broken bullish here, 1, 2, 3, 4, it will actually take us a little time to put in a new count unless we can break below 7,000, and that would actually start a new red count. Notice where our support line here is for our green 9 at 70.98. That will also be a support area here, but God, we're getting really tight here, and the 9 bleed out on the daily is still in progress. Look at our 12-hour. And we had a 9 full count, and it was a perfected. Absolutely, we had a little red here, and now we're on still a green 7 and 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I could probably put in another 8 and 9 here as well. So there's probably at least this says that as long as we can keep it above, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, at least 60. Yeah, this is getting tight here too. We want to hold support at 71.20 in that range. And I'll go down to our 6-hour, and that'll be our last TD9. And we're, you know, just starting green again. We basically have blown through a full 9 cycle, and are flipping from red to green barely on this current candle that's just 34 minutes into it, so not much to see there. So I still find it meaningful that on the daily we basically hit a 9, and are looking for a change in direction here. What does our weekly say? Let's just take a quick look here. Weekly. And I'll talk a little bit about our weekly too, just because we did close our week yesterday. So we had a nice green candle close, a little wick on top, okay. We did start putting in a green 1, but, oh yeah, and that was important too, because we could have very easily put in a red 4, but we didn't. We changed our weekly cycle from red to positive. So that's good. Looking here at our RSI weekly, I mean, you don't get much more dead stick than that, right? And we're under 52. So this is it. I mean, this is really a major important area here. We know that 50, 51, 52, 56. So we're putting in lower highs when we do bounce on our weekly RSI. Once again, these become resistance areas, and right now we are just flat as a pancake. We are still angled bullishly on our stochastic, but we are putting in currently a lower high here on our leading indicator. And you guys want to see this? So this is our MACD. It's our first time since our parabolic move that we've actually crossed bullish. And this is, you could say, meaningful. We're still in the negative, which is also meaningful. If we look back here at the 2014 move, let me just do a little, oh, there we go. So we did do that here as well, and began kind of an upward cycle there when we did that. When did we bottom here? We bottom at negative 65, and our first bottom was at negative 56. So we're here. Come on. Come on. So here we bottomed at negative 63 and did a 53. So listen, this is notable. Okay, we have our second, I should say, weekly positive histogram. Last week was our first one, so this was kind of a sign that we were probably gonna cross bullish on our MACD this week if we had some follow through. And sure enough, we had our follow through. And we are still in this very nice bullish cross. First time in 2018. Give a round of applause to our MACD. But again, we still are in the negative and a long way to go in terms of what our price action is really telling us. Because let's face it here, we've done something very good in terms of the bulls, and that is that we have been able for the first time in this kind of correction to put in some sort of a higher low, at least on our wicks. Now, we've not, I should caveat that. This isn't the first time. We actually did put in a higher low here. Remember that when we broke bearish and we put in a higher low? Oh, that's encouraging. And, we put in a higher low here actually earlier on this move. Back in July there when we put in a higher low here. So we have circumstances where we do put in higher lows, and that's great. But we don't have any circumstances yet where we put in a higher high, because we have our high. When we have our high, 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 and each one is lower than our previous top off. And until that changes, the major trend of Bitcoin is not going to change, and our bearish cycle is not going to change. And listen, I talk about this in my mentoring seminars, and I talk about this, in my shows about, I've never seen a parabolic move not correct more than what's going on here. And I expect us to touch lower areas, based on where the historic money flow has been, based on the fact that we didn't spend a lot of time in certain areas. We have a very clean window of not a lot of support between 5,400 all the way down to $4,600 there, of very little price history. I mean, you think about all the time we've spent between 6,500 and 7,500 these past few months, and think about, the couple weeks that we blew through, 5,000 all the way up to about 5,700, just blew right through it. So there's not these supports here that we've yet to test, historically speaking. Oops, I don't want to do that. And that's important. And that still allows me to keep my bias that we are still in this bearish market. And we are still correcting from our parabolic move. Definitely seen here more evident on our log scale. And I'm still looking for other lower areas to be tested big time. Everything from 4,700 to this major supporting area here, right around 3,000, and potentially lower. And a lot of this has to do with how we have held so far. And it's funny that we really put in our low so far this year, back on that dip in February, until we went bearish here in June. And a lot of the market was expecting, oh, this is our dime where we're going back to that 5K range. Um, I'll go back up a little bit here to 5K. I don't think 5K is actually a very strong support area at all. I think there's a lot more meaning to 4,700. 4,600, 4,700 area as well. And a lot of that also you have to keep in mind here that when we talk about alts and when they retrace, what is our Fibonacci? And basically, if you talk about, when did this market actually turn bullish again? Well, I think it turns bullish basically when we break our all-time high, previous all-time high. So, I'm going to put my start fib level somewhere around, $1,200, which is kind of where we basically turn this market around, maybe $1,100, but kind of right there, And if I did that, let's say this cluster right here, let's go 1,100, okay, and we go to the very top, which was around 20K, and listen, I'll just use the body, okay, but we're looking at a 78.6% retrace, still at $4,900 area. Okay, now we've seen every altcoin, come down there, break it, break through the 88 even, and some have even come back down through 100. But because Bitcoin hasn't gotten down there yet, I'm still open to the scenario that it will. And that it corresponds with this interesting area here of price history that we were at for quite a while here. And the reason I have my 88 here is because when we had our big corrections earlier in the year, a lot of alts were able to find support around the 88% retrace from their all-time high area, and that kind of corresponds with this $3,200 area, which is kind of my area of where if we get down there at any point in time, that's an area where I would want to scoop up some long-term Bitcoin, just because of this retrace and just Fibonacci speaking. Now it's hard to figure out kind of where we are here in this cycle because there's so many variables that have kind of changed the chart and affected. And this is a very news-driven chart here, just because this is a low-volume environment, and we basically have whales versus whales, fighting each other. And we have declining volume here. I like this little cluster here, but again, from a weekly standpoint, we've put in 1, 2, 3. We put 3 consecutive lower volume weeks than the previous week behind, even though we're trickling higher here. So I would like to see the volume overall increase in the market. We're seeing still Bitcoin and crypto market caps not that great compared to where we used to be in the money flow that used to come into crypto. Okay, so quick numbers here: 1,910 cryptocurrencies on 1,693 markets. Current crypto total market cap 236 billion. Bitcoin dominance 52.9. Holding gave up a couple points on the dominance, but still holding. We did see a little money come into some specific alts. 24-hour volumes, we're still low again. We're basically flirting with under 4 billion. Now look at 4 billion is held, okay? I mean, a couple days where we were getting above 4.5, but we're slowing down again, ever so slightly here. And Bitcoin's market cap is 125 billion. That's pretty good, but let's keep building, because I kind of feel like we're just hitting these walls here, So this is a new day. We just started a new day in Bitcoin. Okay, we've let's get close up here. Okay, we're looking for volume. Okay, every time we basically have these little breaks here, we get these wicks. Okay, so volume is being taken, profits are being taken when they can be found. I'm going to quickly talk at the shorts here, because this was very notable. Our guy here, our shorty guy, who loaded a crazy amount of shorts when Bitcoin broke bullishly above 73 to 73.50 area. These rose very, very fast and have been trickling sideways ever since. So these positions are still being held. and could potentially be loaded more into. Now, you kind of watch two things. If we break bearish with Bitcoin, I would expect to see these shorts continue to rise, and I don't think people will begin to take profits then if they've been shorting this area here. I think they'll basically feel maybe it's the beginning of a movement here, and the reason they feel that is because um, we've been watching our Bitcoin longs, what have they been doing here? Well, they've been actually loading the latter half of yesterday, but they're still pretty weak. Every time we have a little move here, we sell off, little move. I mean, we're still hovering close to our highs we've had in weeks, and yet we're kind of in our lower areas of our Bitcoin long contract. So that tells you a lot about there's not a lot of bullishness and from a longer term perspective, and our shorts are kind of trying to set themselves up to capitalize on that. Now surely you could get a big player come in and buy a lot of Bitcoin, but they're buying into a lot of our indicators that are kind of showing, I don't know, is this the kind of area you want to go into when we have certain indicators that are looking to correct? So that's something I'm kind of keep an eye on. So, all right, we've done about a half hour here. I haven't really checked the chat rooms, guys. Let's see who's in the chat today. Sophicious, Beetle Dog. What's up, William? For Fun. Bruno. Demon. Hello, William. Hey, Kevin. NY Lit. What's up, Marcus? Let's see who's out. Spike Yard. Quickie Gaming, and Tone Loke. All right. Yes, I do look a little bit like Tom Selleck with a mustache. Chonis, what? Oh man. All right. So guys, have a great night. Thank you for joining me. Listen, this is a tricky move right here. There's a lot more things showing that we're looking for some sort of a correction here than looking to go higher. And if we do go higher, I mean, again, we could go maybe to 7,500 area here. I do have a lot of extended fibs that could put us breaking bullish from our zone here. But again, this is all we have, I think, left if we can even do this. And I'm not seeing my volume. I'm still seeing the bearish momentum, the bearish divergence on our OBV, and the fact that we were unable to hold this wedge here. That's meaningful. What was once support in our wedge line is now resistance. And so we'll see how this day goes. All right, guys. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter, and please give me some thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. Stay safe. We'll talk to you guys soon.